Howdy folks, I'm Baffled Baffin Island Wolf, begrudgingly buying bad batter.
I'm Amber.
And here's more bad batter for us to purchase. I don't really know why our wolf manifestation is doing so. I mean, that seems like the opposite of what you were what you would want to do.
I mean, maybe that's why the wolf is so baffled that they're doing this.
That could be. Let's get started. All right, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for threatening to leave my husband if he quits his job? Throwaway account. I'm a 28-year-old female and I've been married to my husband, a 29-year-old male, for just over a year. We live together in a nice spacious apartment that he rents in a good area. From the beginning, my husband and I agreed that we were happy with the traditional gender dynamic. He earns a good salary as a management consultant for a Big Four firm and has more than enough money to provide for both of us. As a result, after we married, he gave me the opportunity to leave my marketing job without pressuring me and to be a housewife. In that time, he spoiled me, and I love him for it. I often confess that I'm not the greatest cook in the world, so often after a long day, he still gets out the pan and whips up something. For my part, I try to keep the apartment clean, I do the washing, etc., which I think is reasonable given that he is working a full-time job and paying all the bills. My husband hates his job, and he's hated it as long as I've known him. In December, he ended up going to the hospital with intensive chest pains. While it was a big worry, it ended up being just a panic attack. He complains about how stressed he is all the time, and he's been eating more, drinking more every day, actually. He blames it all on the job. Sometimes I've seen him work 16 plus hours a day and on the weekends. Now, following this trip to the hospital, he's cut back on alcohol, cleaned up his diet, and is exercising. However, he recently told me that it's opened his eyes to the meaninglessness of his career, and he's fed up of making rich people richer and being a slave to corporations. In college, he majored in English literature, and that's what his passion has always been. He writes short stories and then has had them published. But instead of looking for a different corporate job, he says that he wants to be a high school English teacher. Now, this is a huge salary cut. It will probably mean that I'll have to go back to work for a while. This was never part of the plan. And he argues that eventually he'll be on the same money that he is now, and that if we're frugal, I can still be a stay-at-home mom. But frugality was never part of this either. It just isn't about staying home, it's about the standard of living for both of us. He argues that this will make him happier, he'll feel like he's doing a good job in the world, and I asked if he couldn't just get another corporate job and write more on the side, but he says that's not the point. He's sick of the whole corporate way of life and he cannot morally do it anymore. He says that we can still take vacations and everything, they just won't be abroad so often. He says that all of the furniture, clothes, jewelry that we've accumulated is just stuff and it isn't living. I feel like he's having a breakdown similar to Kevin Spacey in American Beauty. Last night, I told him that though I loved him, I married him with the implicit expectation that he would provide a certain standard of living, and that if he becomes a teacher, he's breaking the terms of that agreement, in the same way that if he would cheat. He was completely stunned, and we've ended up having a major argument, during which I walked out and drove to my parents. They agreed with me that he's losing it and is concerned about him. However, if he persists with this, I can't see any outcome other than divorcing him. All right, folks, what do you think? Is for richer or poorer really important in a relationship?
Yeah, I think Opie is definitely a jerk in this situation. I am kind of baffled by her lack of concern for her partner's well-being. He was so stressed and anxious, he ended up having panic attacks and having to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
He was using a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms, which fortunately he's been able to cut back on.
Yeah.
This job is just kind of like stealing his soul.
Yeah.
And Opie's just like, but if you get a different job, then we won't be able to live lavishly anymore.
You know, I don't like the word gold digger. But tell me you're a gold digger without telling me you're a gold digger, right? I agree with the husband in this particular case. Like, if he's really this uncomfortable, then he needs to find a new line of work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I would recommend, though, is if they're earning a tremendous amount of money, then it might be a good idea to plan his out a little bit better, right? and to say, well, I'm going to work in this job for another 3 years. We're going to put aside X amount of money. That way we have a safety net and that we can continue to ensure that we're not like in a bad position, right? And they can still cut down on the vacations and other things, right? That way they can actually get into a good financial position that will prepare them for another phase of life, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, it all depends on how well he is doing. Like sometimes people just need to get out. But if he like knowing that okay, in 3 years I'm gonna get this other job, if that's like motivating him
Yeah.
to get through, that could be a great option.
Well, and then also, what about this option? He's working 16-hour days and on weekends and stuff like that. Stop, right?
Yeah,
Right? Just stop doing that,
yeah, stop doing
right?
the overtime.
Stop working 16-hour days. If your job is giving you more work than you can accomplish in that amount of time, you'll either get fired and then you can go work as an English teacher, or they'll just continue to give you less work and you can have a healthy work-life balance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's really, at the end of the day, he doesn't want this job. So why put in 16-hour days, right?
Right. I mean, as so many people are caught up in you know, we have this work culture where you're supposed to be giving it all the time, and
Yeah.
there's no work-life balance whatsoever. And of course, it's hard because you have to feed yourself, and a lot of jobs, you know, even if it's not written into it, like you're still expected to do this stuff. But if he's already on the way out of this job anyway, might as well start cutting down and finding that work-life balance.
Yeah. And then like I said, either they'll respect his work-life balance. He might not get promoted. He might not get like the raises or any of those kinds of things that he would normally get, but he might be able to find a satisfaction in basically like not overdoing it all the time, right? And then just take advantage of all like the different work perks and stuff like that. Just
Yeah.
not be worried about like taking advantage of the company at that point in time. Just milk it for all it's worth. That's what I'm saying. Is you don't like this job, milk it for all it's worth. I know that might sound a little unethical, but I mean,
Well, I mean, what
He's-
corporation isn't unethical?
yeah. I mean, the thing is like, he wants to get out of this job.
hmm
Just start doing the minimal effort. I mean, this is kind of like the whole quiet
Quiet
quitting
quitting.
thing, right? Where, you just do your job and only do your job, which shouldn't be called quiet quitting.
No,
It's
I mean,
called
that's
doing your
doing your
job,
job.
right? And don't do an hour over what you're supposed to do.
hmm
And I think that he'll be a lot happier and more prepared when he can go and get another job, right?
Yeah.
And they'll have the extra money too.
But I don't know what OP thinks she's gonna get at. Like, I hope he takes her up, calls her bluff, and does divorce her. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
if he has an English teacher's salary, alimony's not gonna be that much. She's
Yeah.
gonna have to get a new job anyway.
Yeah, what I want to know is, do they even have kids?
It doesn't sound like it, but
Like, is she just staying home and not doing anything?
that's the vibe I got from this, is that she's just staying home, and he comes home, cooks her dinner, and so she's I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, why not invest in some cooking lessons for your poor husband who's working 16-hour days? This is just not a good situation for him.
Yeah,
I mean, divorce for him,
yeah.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. You're the jerk with zero self-awareness.
Yes, Wheel, you are perfect, spot on today.
Good job, Wheel. Good job. And Caspian4136 says, you're the jerk. Why don't you just title it that you were a gold digger? Money, vacation, status, that's more important to you than your husband's own well-being. And OP replies, implying that teaching high school will be a cakewalk? Please. How about giving our future children a better quality of life? Would they be more proud of a dad who is a high-powered executive or a dad who's teaching English at a high school? Answer that question with your brain and not your feelings.
Oh, oof. I'm going to answer this question. My dad is a construction worker, and I am very proud of him. I'm more proud of him than if he was, running an unethical company.
Well, the thing is this, right? I think OP is just looking at the money.
Mhm.
Really. And they say future children.
Yeah, they don't have kids,
So it definitely sounds like they don't have children. Help your husband out, for crying out loud. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, her attitude here is just so gross and dehumanizing. It's like anyone who doesn't make ridiculous money and can't keep me pampered isn't worth anything.
And Bulbasaur Ranch replies, regardless of what their father does, I know that they will be ashamed of having a person like you as their mother. That is a burn. Someone call the paramedics. And Daedric Dad says, wow, this has nothing to do with whether your kids would be proud and everything to do with the fact that you think it's beneath you. We should all be proud of teachers. And I imagine your kids would only not be proud of him if you instilled the same horrid attitude into them as you have.
Yeah, well, I think it's really gross to prioritize money over everything else. Like, someone's salary does not determine how worthwhile their career is. We need teachers. We need janitors. We need all kinds of lower paying jobs. Like, they are vital to the success of our country
Yeah.
and our society. And you shouldn't just look at them and be like, well, you're not making like six figures, so you're a loser.
Yeah. And Coyote Ordinary 8450 says, you're the jerk, just go ahead and divorce your husband, he deserves better. And Your Daddy 1972 says, you're the jerk. Assuming that this is even real, and I have my doubts, you would rather him work himself to death at a job that he loathes so that you don't have to work than actually have a happy husband. Gold digger much. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for kicking my fiance's sister out of our house after she redecorated without asking? So I'm a 29-year-old female, and I've been with my fiance, a 31-year-old male, for 4 years. And we've been living together for 2. We recently bought a house, and it's been a dream to finally create a space that feels like our own. I've been carefully decorating it over the past few months, choosing furniture, paint colors, and all that. His sister Megan, a 26-year-old female, is going through a rough time. She just got out of a bad relationship, lost her job, and then needed somewhere to stay. I'm pretty compassionate, so when my fiance asked if she could crash with us for a bit, I said yes, as long as it wasn't long term. At first, things were fine. She kept to herself and was respectful of our space. But in about 2 weeks in, I came home from work to find that she had completely redecorated our living room. She had painted one of her walls bright red, rearranged all the furniture, and even bought new throw pillows and curtains. She proudly told me that she thought the space was too boring and wanted to make it more vibrant. I was furious. I spent weeks choosing everything for that room, and now it looks like some cheap bachelor pad from the 90s. I told her that she had no right to make changes to my house without asking, but she just shrugged and said she was helping and thought that I would be grateful. My fiance tried to calm me down, saying that it's not a big deal and we can repaint it, but I felt completely disrespected. I told Megan that she had 48 hours to pack up and leave. She started crying and saying that I was being heartless for kicking her out when she had nowhere else to go. Now my fiance is mad at me, saying that I'm overreacting and that she's just trying to cope with everything that she's going through. His family is blowing up my phone, calling me selfish and unkind. But it's our house, and I feel like she's crossed a major line. I don't think that I'm wrong for setting a boundary, but now I'm starting to second guess myself because everyone is making me feel like a monster. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Well, the good news is if you have family blowing up your phone telling you that this is so wrong, they should be opening up their doors any moment, clearly.
Yep.
I mean, no, I don't think you're in the wrong. It is, I feel like it should be common knowledge you don't just redecorate people's homes without their consent.
Yeah.
It's not like she's a paying tenant with some kind of lease, and even like apartment complexes will have rules like you can't paint, you can't hang things on walls, So she definitely should have run this by you before she even bought supplies.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big problem I have here is that she just went out of her way, called all the work that OP did boring, which is pretty insulting.
Yeah.
And then, did this against OP's will. And I just think that that's a recipe for disaster. All she had to do was nothing, right? That's all she had to do. She didn't have to decorate. She didn't have to, do anything. She just had to stay in her room and do nothing. And that was the one thing she had to do, and she messed it up.
Well, and like I understand she may be struggling with her mental health and might have thought a change of scenery would help or something like that. But again, that's when you talk to someone and there's things you can do, like, maybe she could have put up things in her room she's staying in. Why redecorate a public space that everyone uses?
Yeah. It just feels like a massive overreach. And it feels like, such an extreme thing so early on what else is she going to do? And
Yeah.
like, she's redecorating this house as though she's going to be living there long term.
Well, and that's the other big concern is like, how long is she actually going to be here for? And my guess is that there is no end date in her mind.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Unicorn Detective says this is your first loyalty test. If your fiance is not on your side, you know what happens after you get married. He will not stand up for you and do not get along with your mother-in-law. He cannot even handle his sister for you. Forget about his mother. This is a classic mama's boy. You need to stand your ground and see how he reacts. If he chooses his loyalty on his family over you, you should think about giving him back the engagement ring. And Clean Perspective 2345 says, I totally agree with you. If he can't back you up on something so important, this is definitely a red flag. This situation is a good indicator of how he'll handle the other boundaries down the road. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for saying that my brother shouldn't have brought his pregnant girlfriend to my wedding, and for refusing to let her be in my wedding photos? I got married last weekend, and I'm still so mad at what my brother did. He took all of the attention off of me and my husband. Normally, I don't need to be the center of attention, but this was my freaking wedding day. I feel like it's all anyone is talking about during the wedding, and now it's like the main thing any of them are even remembering from the entire thing. It was a destination wedding within the US, so nothing ridiculous. We kept the guest list to our families, immediate and extended, as well as close friends. My parents paid for our immediate family to arrive about 5 days ahead of time, so it was my parents, my sister, and I initially, and my brother arriving a few days later. We knew that my brother was bringing a date, no big deal. He said that he was bringing a girl from school. He didn't even call her his girlfriend officially. My parents showed up at the airport to pick my brother up, and there he was, hand in hand with an obviously pregnant girl that none of us had ever met. My parents were obviously taken aback. My brother greeted them like everything was normal. According to my mom, and my parents didn't really know what to do or say. Then he just said, "Surprise!" My poor mom almost fainted, and my dad claims that he yelled out, "What in the world have you done?" He introduced us to his girlfriend, but that doesn't clarify if she's his girlfriend, and it doesn't give us much info at all, really. It was really weird. It was obvious that she was uncomfortable. She said that she wasn't feeling well and needed to go lay down after the flight. So at dinner, it was just our family as she was resting. We were all awkwardly sitting around the table eating dinner, barely saying a word, and my mom finally says, "Brother's name, is that your baby?" By then, we all assumed it was, but my mom needed confirmation. The lack of any real explanation or details from him up until then was just odd. He admitted that technically it was not his baby, but he's in love with her and intends on being a father to their baby anyways. The actual father isn't involved and doesn't want to be, and if they're getting married, then he can adopt the baby and he'll legally be the father. She's living with him, and none of us knew this either. He's been her main support person throughout the entire thing, and she's 28 weeks, well now 29 weeks, since this was over a week ago. I think that this was way worse than what we had all assumed. He's so in love with her, and he's going to take on that responsibility of a child and marry her, yet we've never heard of her? He said that he's mentioned her quite a few times. Well, maybe he's mentioned her name in passing, not to me, but maybe to my parents, but never said that she was his girlfriend or pregnant. None of us understand. He's 21, about to graduate college, planning on entering law school next year, and he's an attractive guy. Why would he do this? My parents, especially my mom, were stressing out about it all weekend long throughout the entire wedding weekend. It was like my wedding became an afterthought. All my parents could do was talk about how to make my brother change his mind about this girl. Then, when the wedding photographer was taking family pictures, he wanted her in them. That was really the breaking point for me. She isn't family. None of us knew about the relationship, and we met her 2 days prior. She shouldn't be in our official family pictures from my wedding. It's like, forget the bride and groom and look at this randomly heavily pregnant woman hitching herself to my brother. I told him no, and I refused to let her be in the photos. My mom made me allow her to be in one picture, but said that we don't have to buy that one or put it on display anywhere. Just made my blood boil. Anyways, I don't think that he should have brought her. There was no reason to bring her to my wedding, especially without warning. I mean, it was all my family could talk about, and he was reticent to even correct them about it not being his baby. And he said that it's because it was awkward for her to have to explain the whole scenario to everyone. So he's just letting people think what they want. Because he wouldn't at least say something, everyone was gossiping and wondering about this the whole time. I'm posting because I'm upset that several friends and even my own mom are telling me that I'm overreacting and I just need to accept it. When I told a group of my coworkers about it after the fact, they weren't at the wedding, they agreed with me and thought that what my brother did was absolutely ridiculous and rude. All right, folks, what do you think?
I mean, I think OP's brother is clearly a jerk in this situation, and I feel so bad for this poor woman who it sounds like was kind of thrown into this situation without fully understanding how little everyone knew. It's a little bit tricky because I don't know. I don't think OP was in the wrong for being upset that her wedding kind of got turned into a meet my brother's pregnant girlfriend session. I feel like he should have given everyone a heads up that he was bringing his pregnant girlfriend, and not just been like, oh yeah, I'm bringing a plus one.
This is a difficult situation, right? He's
Yeah.
21 years old, and it was clear that he didn't do this out of malice, right? He's trying to be a good partner. He's trying to be a good father, right? And he's taken over all these responsibilities, and he's juggling, caring for a pregnant woman while also going through school, right? So I think that really where the fault lies here is with a lot of people, right? Like the parents trying to convince him to change his mind. Why? They don't have any right to tell him to change his mind about this. He loves this woman, and they were like, why is he with this woman? Like, he's with her because he loves her, right? And I think that this is really unfortunate that they're over here trying to change his mind, and, talking about this. Like, the attention that they should have given should have been on the bride. They should have acknowledged it, acknowledged the elephant in the room and said, well, congratulations, we're happy for you and we'll support you in whatever way we can, and then just change the subject, right? It's really kind of on all these other people for basically, putting the level of attention on her that they did.
I mean, I don't disagree that the other people have reacted badly, but I do think the brother is in the wrong too with how he handled it. And I'm not, so, I don't know what his exact motives were. Some people speculate in the comments that he was trying to take the attention off himself and using OP's wedding as a shield. Or it could also be that he really wanted to, make a big dramatic scene. I don't know what his motives are, but you don't do something that big without giving the person whose wedding it is a heads up.
Yeah, and again, I think this is a difficult situation. I think that, hindsight's 2020, maybe he should have let them know. I don't read this as malice. I read this as someone who is kind of starstruck, love struck, and trying to, wants to introduce this woman to his family and wants them to, accept her and to, know that he's there for them. And I think that they are, viewing this as him throwing his life away or something like that.
I mean, I think
right?
that's really gross. The way people are acting like since this isn't his bio kid, he should get out of the relationship.
Yeah.
Like you can love a kid that you don't have any biological connection to,
Yeah.
and it's really, again, gross to suggest that someone's wrong for wanting to step up and be a step parent.
Yeah. And I think he could have handled this in a lot different. I agree with you, right? Maybe a Facebook post a month ago or something like that, been like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm with such and such person, but who knows how recent this relationship is, and it might be that they're still trying to navigate what they are to each
Well,
other.
if they're that new though, you usually wouldn't bring that person
Yeah.
to the wedding.
And that at that point in time, that seems like that's a little bit of an overreach, right, on his part.
Yeah, and that's my question is if they've been together long enough for him to feel like she's really family, why hasn't he introduced her yet
Yeah.
before? And if they haven't, then why did he bring her as a plus one?
Yeah. But I don't really have any answers to those, and I don't think anyone does.
No.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. So I do kind of want to read this OP reply. I don't want to get into all the different comments here, but I will jump into this one here. OP replies, basically, he's always been babied by our entire family. He's the youngest kid in the family and the youngest grandchild on one side and second youngest grandchild on the other side. I was always the little adult, very responsible, teacher's pet, followed all the rules. I never got into trouble ever, and I'd cry if I did. My brother is smart and gets good grades, but he was also the class clown and had no problem being reprimanded. In fact, I would say that that's part of his personality that everyone likes. The things that he gets away with, and people, including myself and many times, I find almost charming. It's so wild since I don't think that I could have gotten away with them and have been like that even more for them. I feel like everyone liked me because I was always such a goody two-shoes. My parents say that it's just because he's the youngest, so they were relaxed by the time he came along. He's 6 years younger than me. It just kind of feels like OP is saying that he's not prepared for being adulthood, and that he's too much of a class clown. But I mean, clearly he's not too much of a class clown if he's already doing all these things for her.
Yeah, well, I mean, that may be the way the family sees him or something like that. So it may be time for the family to update their view. But it seems like OP was mostly just saying, like, it's frustrating because she could never have gotten away with the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to kind of jump into this one. This person basically tries to claim that she's 30 years old or something like that. I don't know where they got that number from. And OP replies, almost 30 years old, she's 21 and looks even younger. She's a very pretty girl, also very vulnerable looking, to the point where I would never have been able to say anything rude to her face. I can see why he fell for her hook, line, and sinker, but he's thinking with his heart and what's between his legs and nothing in his actual head. That's a very rude statement. You don't know what he's thinking with. All right, folks, it's tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Why are purple and yellow such good friends?
Purple and yellow are such good friends because they're complementary colors.
Yeah, they complement each other.
Oh.
And today is National Compliment Day, but spelled with an I. So make sure to give the people you're close to some compliments.
Yes, make sure to take their compliment.
No.
In a mathematical sense.
No. Just say nice things about people. Brian, I like how you are absurd sometimes. Sometimes it's amusing.
And I have Earl Grey. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Fantastic Friday, folks. I hope your Friday is off to a fantastic start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please have it in the form of sibling drama.
Don't redecorate your sibling's house without their permission.
Yeah, I think that's a golden rule. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!